Okay, what's up, you guys? My name is Beth Isbell, and I am so excited to be spending the next 60 minutes with you guys this morning. I want to start by saying I'm a firm believer in that before you sit down to work an action hour or a power pocket or a power hour or whatever you want to call it, that it's so important that you do two things. One, you get organized, and two, you make sure you're in a good headspace, right? Because you're about to spend the next 60 minutes, or if you're working a little power pocket, you only have 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Those 15 minutes or 60 minutes are gonna be spent in conversation with people, hopefully just connecting and building relationships. And you can't do that if you're not in a good headspace. You can, but it won't be as effective. So a couple things first before we kind of jump into that. I don't have any slides. It's something that I meant to work on for this week, and I didn't get around to it because of the 9-week Control Freak launch has been keeping me super busy. But I'm scheduled for every other Tuesday. So when you guys see me again, I will have slides for you. But I think that that's okay. So the first thing I want you to do is make sure that you're organized. So even if I don't want you to like scramble and freak out if you don't feel organized right now, but just keep this in mind for the next action hour that you sit in on, or the next time you sit down to work your business. I feel like when you go into a power hour and you feel scrambled and like you don't know where to start, and maybe even if I'm spending 10 minutes with you on this activity, but you only need 5 minutes there and 20 minutes somewhere else where we're spending less time, you're able to feel confident and comfortable in your ability to move those time slots around based on your business and what serves you best when you go into the power hour organized. Okay, so business activity tracker, however you track your conversations or your invites or follow-ups. I am super old school in how I track invites and follow-ups. I do it all on pen and paper. And then of course I have my business activity tracker, and we'll walk through kind of how I organize conversations on Instagram as well. Tracy, yes. I'm not sure who your upline coach is, but I will share the recording in our message thread that we have where we coordinate all of these calls. So I want you to make sure going into your next action hour, if you're not organized right now, that you get organized before your next one. Make sure you have your invite list, your follow-up list. Make sure that you know exactly where you need to spend your time. So like Tracy just mentioned in the chat, she only has a couple minutes right now, a little small pocket. Know what is top priority for you during that small pocket of time, okay? Or even if you have 60 minutes, know where you need and want to spend your time. So as we're kind of walking through this, I want to give you permission to do just that. If we're spending 7 minutes expanding and you have a reel that you just posted that is bringing a lot of new followers in, you don't need 7 minutes to expand, but instead you need to spend 15 minutes instead of 10 connecting, then I want to give you permission to move forward to that. And when we get to that point, I will walk you through exactly how I navigate that piece of the income producing activities. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes, and we are just going to get our mindsets in check, right? This can be blaring some Beyonce. That's what I like to do. Opening up your devotional, your personal development book, and reading a page really quickly. Maybe just closing your eyes and meditating for a couple minutes, or writing down some gratitude and affirmations. Whatever you need to do so that when that timer goes off, you're like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do the dang thing. So whatever gets you hyped up or in the right headspace, I want you to do that now. And we have 3 minutes. Hey, you guys, that is the end of our 3 minutes of mindset work. So now what we're going to do is jump right into expanding. So like I mentioned, this something else that I want you guys to do as we're kind of navigating this together is I want you to make note, like just on a pen and a piece of paper, just with a pen and a piece of paper, on areas of this process that you feel like you really need to find more joy in, or you really need to dig a little bit deeper in to feel comfortable and confident in your ability to navigate it. So as we're expanding, if you're like, okay, I'm having a really hard time finding people to expand with or to bring to my page, or okay, I've been expanding for a while, but when we get to connecting, I'm having trouble feeling comfortable starting conversations because the connection point hasn't moved to a point where the connection feels good. Same thing with inviting. And I want you to just spend extra time in little pockets throughout your day figuring out how to bring joy into that piece of your business, because you will always dread this process, because this is the what can feel like the challenging or hard work as a newer coach. That's what this process can feel like. But I promise you, there is so much joy and energy to be found in this process, because it is the foundation of our business, right? The most beautiful thing about this business for a lot of us is the community and the relationships and the friendships that have come from connecting with people. So I want you to really pay attention to that. Make notes on where you maybe need to figure out a new system for, or dive a little bit deeper into, and then also make notes of where you're kind of ending, right? So we're going to spend 7 minutes expanding. I'm going to go ahead and start my timer so we can stay on track. So go do your thing if you feel comfortable with it. But I also want to say to make note on kind of where you stop. Like maybe you got through expanding with 40 people during 7 minutes. Pay attention to how that number pays off in connections next week, and then go back and evaluate because you're a business owner, right? So you can go back and look and say, okay, I've been spending 7 minutes every day expanding, and I still don't feel like I have a lot of connections. Does that have to do with my social media content? Does that have to do with maybe I'm expanding with or connecting with the, not my niche market, so they're not really reciprocating the relationship? Just evaluate your business consistently so that you can fill in the gaps, okay? And know that even though this may feel uncomfortable right now, get into the headspace of knowing that you're sharing a gift that has changed your life. You're sharing that with other people. And when you can really find your people to connect with, there's just like so much energy to be found in this process. Okay, so what I like to do when I'm expanding, and like I said, if you have a system in place that works for you, go for it, because you don't have to do what I do. I just want to share what works for me. The first thing that I do whenever I go into my expanding pocket is I want to make sure that I have a solid and consistent grid, right? Because expanding means that I am going and finding people to connect with, to follow with. I'm reaching out to them and following them with the hopes that they will follow me back, or at least accept my follow request, right? Because based on their little bio blurb and or their bio picture, regardless of whether their page is private or public, they look like somebody that I want to be friends with. I always tell my coaches that you're looking for people to do life with you who may also do Beachbody with you. And I think if you go into it with that perspective, it feels very natural and comfortable, at least more natural and comfortable than feeling like, okay, I need to sell somebody a challenge pack because I need them to feel the way that I feel. Instead, know that you're finding people to build relationships with and connections with, to do life with you, who may also do Beachbody with you at some point. And a big piece of that is that when they come to your page and they look at your grid, they need to see what you're about, right? Because they're going to look at your bio and your picture and your grid and decide, okay, she looks like somebody I could be friends with, or somebody that I want to connect with, and they'll follow you back. And when they follow you back, ideally, they'll start interacting on your page and or watching your stories, and then the connection process that we're going to walk through next becomes a lot more familiar. So I always kind of do a self-assessment on, is my grid consistent? Does it attract my niche market? Okay, do people want to follow me back? And like I mentioned, keep this fun. Focus on just finding people to follow. Get out of your own way. I always tell my new coaches too, just because so think about your love for Beachbody before you decided to sign up to become a coach, right? You loved it and you probably talked to everybody about it around the Thanksgiving dinner table, right? But now that you're a coach, it's so easy to just like get a little bit weird. So I always tell my new coaches, just because you're a coach now, don't go getting all weird on me. You're just sharing what you love with other people. So I want you to approach this expanding process in that way. And I keep this super simple. I have 3 or so kind of solid accounts that I work from, accounts that are people or pages that have similar niche markets as me. And I know that the people who follow those pages or those people probably have similar interests to me, right? So I will go to those pages, I'll go through their most recent posts, and I will follow their most recent likers and commenters. And those are people that I know are obviously active on social media, so they will see that I have requested to follow them, or that I did follow them if they have a public page. Don't spend this time connecting with them. We're only following, okay? We'll do our connection piece next. So this is how you keep your pipeline full, because in order to follow up with people, you have to be inviting people. And in order to have people to invite, you have to connect. And in order to have people to connect with, you have to be attracting new people, right? So that's kind of this linear process, this pipeline that we're trying to keep full, and this process that we're trying to follow. So you have about 3 minutes left. So let's keep expanding. And you guys, I know it can be kind of intimidating to ask questions, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Just throw them up in the chat and I will be sure to address them. These are supposed to be learning sessions for you. Okay, that is the end of our 7 minutes of expanding. So I want you to throw up in the chat how many people you were able to follow, right? So we weren't connecting right then, we were just following people. And so I want you to share in the chat how many people you were able to follow. 16, 10, cool. Cool, 50, 30, awesome. Make note of that, right? What you don't track, you can't change. So I want you to just make a note of the number of people that you followed during those 7 minutes. So that as you do a power hour or power pockets every single day, if you get to a point where you're like, I don't have anybody to connect with, the same people are watching my stories, the same people are liking my posts, what do I do? Well, you probably need to expand more, right? And if you're like, okay, I'm following 80 people in 7 minutes and nobody's following me back, well, then we can reverse engineer that even further and know that maybe it's a content issue, right? Maybe we need to get a little bit more familiar with social media. So let me look at these questions really quick before we move on. What do you say to a new follower? I'll talk about that in just a second when we connect. These are awesome numbers. Good job, you guys. I totally follow private accounts. Here's the thing. Before I was a coach, I had a private account. Like I only use social media to like share pictures of my dog and my family, right? So my account was private. A lot of like my closest friends from coaching, a lot of my coaches, a lot of my customers had private accounts. Why would they have a need to have a public account if they didn't run a business on social media, right? So for me anyways, I follow private accounts. And yeah, I know like Erin said, she does too because she's a teacher. Most teachers are private. That, you know, that's totally true too, that a lot of coaches have private accounts. For me, public works best. I just am like I very closely monitor. And yeah, Karen is a teacher and she's public. It's totally personal preference and whatever you feel like kind of aligns with your goals and what works best for you. But yeah, if you look like you can be my best friend and I want to have a slumber party with you, then I'm following you. I don't care if your page is public or private. Okay, I'm going to set my timer. We're going to kind of lump this into a big 25-minute connecting block. I want you to like jump right in and get busy, but I'm going to kind of walk you through, I'm going to go ahead and start my timer so we can stay on track, but I'm going to kind of walk you through my connection process. And if I'm being totally transparent and honest with you guys, I know that because we like all have very different lives and we're all the busiest people that we know, this will look very different for you. I know before I was a full-time coach, I worked outside of the home full-time and I was a full-time PhD student. I was out of my house from like 6 a.m. until 10:30 at night. And so all of this had to get done super early in the morning and then throughout pockets of my day, right? Like on my lunch break and between my work and my class and all of that fun stuff. But there is no way that I can only spend 25 minutes a day connecting and get through all of the people that I need to connect with based on story views, likers and comments of my post, new follow backs, people that I add to collections. This is where I spend 90% of my IPA activity, my income producing activity, because it's the most valuable, right? This is where relationships are built. So I'm going to kind of share with you all of my touch points of connecting. And this is where it becomes really important to kind of track where you're at, as far as like, if you've gone through your story views, the timer goes off because you only have 10 minutes, mark where you finish so that you can come back to your story views and continue going through them. Same is true with the likers and commenters on your post, so on and so forth. So one thing that I would kind of encourage you to do is all of those people that you just followed, that you just expanded with, what I want you to do is go to your profile and click on following. And then you'll see this little up and down arrow right beside sort by, see? And then there's a little up and down arrow. You can sort this list of people that you're following by date followed latest. And this is going to be all of the people that you just recently followed, okay? So date followed latest. What I want you to do now is decide if they really are in your niche, okay? This is where you're gonna connect with them. So the 7 minutes before this, we just followed them. Now we're going through, and if their page was private and they haven't accepted you yet, then obviously you can't do this part with them right now. But if their page was public or if they've already accepted you, I want you to go to their page and look around for a couple more seconds, right? Something quicker than that initial glance at their bio and their profile picture. If they have a story, an Instagram story, fabulous. Watch it and respond to it. Don't overthink this part. You are just building a relationship with somebody. Nothing about Beachbody, nothing about fitness. You're finding people to do life with who may also do Beachbody with you at some point, okay? So you're gonna look at their page, you're gonna look at some of their pictures. If you're like, oh, maybe they're not quite in my niche, then guess what? Unfollow them and move on. It's okay, right? You don't have to be like everybody's jam, and everybody doesn't need to be your jam, right? You're going to build a successful, close relationship, like tight-knit community by connecting with people who are in your niche, okay? So if they are in your niche though, and you're going to continue to follow them, go watch their stories, respond to their stories, or look at a most recent post. Now, you guys, I only will comment and or like on posts that are made within like the past 5 days. I feel like it is super, I mean, I don't know. It just feels weird to me to like, if their last post was made in September or August, for me to comment on it. It just like doesn't feel super natural and authentic to me. So if they haven't posted in a long time, I'll probably just move on, right? They're probably not super active on social media, enough so in a way that I can build a relationship with them. So I'll just move past it. But if they have a recent post, like within the past week or so, 5 days, then I'll find one that makes sense for me to comment on, something that is easy to start a conversation with. And after I comment on it, I add it to a collection. So how I do collections is I have one that starts at the beginning of every week, and I just title it like 1221. That's this week's collection. So if you click this little saved flag right here, in case you're not familiar with collections, if you hold down on that, you can create a new collection, title it whatever you want, and add them to that collection so that you can easily keep track of everybody that you want to continue building a relationship with. So I start a new collection at the beginning of every week, and that entire week when I do this process, I add people to that collection, and then I spend another power pocket of time going into the collection and continuing to build relationships from previous weeks. Those collections are where I send my invites from, okay? So that's kind of one piece of connecting. I want you to go through all those people you just followed, decide if you want to follow them still. If you do, connect, add them to a collection, or track them however works best for you. If they're not in your niche, then move on. Another piece of connecting that we're kind of just all lumping into these 25 minutes because I want to get through this and stop talking so you guys can really focus. Go through all of your story views and your likes and your comments. I call this no story view, like, or comment left behind. This is the part that typically forces me to come back around to connecting because this is a non-negotiable in my business. This for me is essentially serving the people who are already sitting at my table. If you're liking and commenting on my post and you're watching my stories, you kind of have already seen what I'm about and what I'm into and what I share, and you're still sticking around, so I'm gonna pour even more time into that. So I call that no story view, like, or comment left behind. Go through your stories, go through your most recent posts, likes, and comments, and just connect with those people. Have conversations, build relationships, don't overthink it. If you guys need help with conversations, be sure to let me know. And then kind of the final piece of connecting after I do my new follows, the people that I'm newly following, no story view, like, or comment left behind. I will go back into those collections that maybe are from last week or the week before, and I'll continue connecting with them. If they have any new posts, if they have any stories up, I'll just have conversations with them. And then when we get to the inviting piece, I will go into my collections from prior to 2 weeks, and I will invite from those collections. There was a question about how do you start a conversation with a new follower? Don't overthink it. If you were standing in line at Target with this new follower, like how would you start a conversation with them? I love your shoes. Where did you get your dress? Your kids are so cute. We have the same kind of dog. Like, don't overthink it. Some people like to invite right off the bat. They'll send a message that's like, hey, thanks for following me. You know, I run online accountability groups, yada, yada. I don't do that because it doesn't feel like natural to me. I love building a relationship first, but I think it's really important to do whatever feels right to you. Nancy asked, how many times do you connect before inviting? So this is totally, I always tell my girls to just do what feels good, right? Without staying like too much in your comfort zone. What I do when I invite is I go to my collection from 2 weeks ago, right? So I spend 2 full weeks trying to connect with them on if they have any new posts or any new stories outside of Beachbody. I just connect with them. And then whenever I invite, I go to my collection from 2 weeks ago and before, and I will invite from there. But here's the thing, if I've been connecting with somebody for 4 weeks and they've never once reciprocated like a response, I'm probably not gonna invite them, right? Or I may invite them and then remove them from my collection knowing that, you know, I did my part, I invited them, and then if they're interested, then they know that it's on the table. But if they're watching my stuff and they're seeing my stuff, then, and they're still not reciprocating that relationship, then I won't invite them. But I think that's totally like a personal thing as to what brings me joy in my business is building a relationship with somebody and being able to invite them confidently and comfortably because of how I have spent time connecting with them and getting to know them. I do save my collections by weeks. So, and I just title them, I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but like you can see, they're just like week of 12/21, week of 11/26, so on and so forth. So that I kind of know the timeline as to when I started connecting with them. Oh, one more thing, and then I'll stop talking. We have about 16.5 minutes left. Something like when I'm going through my stories and I'm connecting with my story viewers, what I will do a lot of times is if I have a story from the day before that I try to you guys, you should not only be sharing Beachbody, right? If you're only sharing Beachbody in your stories, you're only going to have Beachbody to connect on, and that's not the goal here, right? The goal is to build a relationship to do life with, who may also do Beachbody with you. So while I show my workout clips every day, I show my Energize every day and all the things, I also show things that will allow me to have a conversation with somebody who has seen it, right? So like my daughter is, my almost 2-year-old is kind of a savage. So if I show something of her in my stories yesterday, and I go to my story viewers and I see that I'm gonna pick a random person. I see that Amanda watched my stories yesterday, specifically the story of my daughter being a savage, then I can message her and be like, oh my gosh, can you believe that she did that? She's so crazy. Like super simple. It allows somebody to get to know me from like a personal aspect, and it allows me to like have a connection point with them. Nothing to do with Beachbody, right? So I try to show something in my stories every day that would allow me to have a conversation with somebody in relation to something that they've seen of mine. Yes, you guys. Okay, if you want the recording of this, find me on Instagram. I'm putting my handle in the comments, and I'll just send it to you directly because it'll be uploaded to YouTube. So I'll just send you the YouTube link directly. Just follow me and send me a message, and I can send it directly to you just so that it doesn't get lost in transit. And I'm glad that this is helpful. So I'm going to stop talking. As you are navigating this process, make notes of where you need to find more joy. Make notes of where you're stopping before you move on to the next piece. And ask questions if you have questions about conversation so that we can make sure you feel good about that moving forward. Something else that can be really helpful here as far as your stories are concerned is making sure that every day you have some kind of a poll or a little slider thing or questions box unrelated to your challenge group. So you may find that whenever you put a poll up in your story and you're like, if you want more info on my challenge group, vote on the poll before, and you get like one vote, right? And it's like probably some bot that voted on your story, and it's like really discouraging. I want to encourage you to spark more engagement by putting a poll or a slider bar or something up that has nothing to do with your workouts or your challenge group, because people are fearful that if they vote on that poll or if they slide that bar and it's related to a challenge group, that even though that maybe you're just saying like, hey, if you want more info, let me know, there's like this fear around feeling like if they vote on that poll or ask for more info, then they're committing to something. And that is very scary for a lot of people because hashtag health and fitness journeys are hard. And so if you can start that conversation about something totally irrelevant to health and fitness, it could and will and probably will lead to that. Okay, so be sure that you're putting content up in your stories and on your feed that allows people to interact with you outside of the fitness space. We have about 7 minutes left. And I want to also encourage you, if you're a newer coach, like maybe just within the past couple weeks or even month or two, it may make more sense for you right now to, especially when we get to the inviting part, to stay close, right, in your warm market or your hot market, like those people who already know, like, and trust you. So I always tell my new coaches, focus on inviting the people who already know, like, and trust you, who are in your warm market or your hot market, while you show up on social media and build trust with other people, right? So the goal with showing up on our social media is to help other people get to know, like, and trust us. But you still have a circle of people, if you're a newer coach, that know, like, and trust you, that maybe you haven't connected with or invited yet. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is all totally relevant to where you're at in your business as far as how long you've been a coach. What do you do with the people in your collection after you have invited them? So you can do a couple things here. You can have an invited collection. So whenever you send the invite, you can move them from that week of whatever collection, like week of 20, well, let's do like week of 11/26. You can move them from that collection to an invited collection. So then you have a collection of people that you've invited that then when you set your timer to follow up, you can go straight into that invited collection and follow up with those people that you know you've already invited. I have probably a more complicated system than necessary of how I do that process. I don't move them to, I used to move them to an invited collection, but I have so many conversations a day that I found myself kind of getting lost in all of those. So I keep my collections just like they are with week by week. I'll go in there and invite. And then I use pen and paper for when, if they show any interest. So if I send an invite, or if somebody reaches out to me, like if I post a picture of my lunch on my stories and somebody says, oh, what kind of dressing do you use on your salad? Or what is that? Or can you share the recipe? That tells me that they are even like the slightest bit interested in nutrition. So they go on my handwritten invite list. Okay. I like skip the collection situation altogether and I put them straight on my invite list, because it would make sense for me to invite them if they're asking me about something to do with nutrition, or if they ask me what my Energize is, straight to my invite list, because I know that they're paying attention to my health and fitness journey. Same is true with people that I invite from my collection. I leave them there until they reciprocate or they respond. And if they're like, yeah, sure, tell me more, even if it doesn't lead to them signing up right away, they go on my paper tracker. And then, but that does pose for a little bit, depending on how big your collections get during the course of the week, how consistently you're adding to them. It can get a little bit more messy if you have people in there that you've invited that you need to follow up with, that you don't need to connect with. So just find a system that works for you. It may mean moving them to an invited collection so that you can pull from that to follow up. I like putting them into a want details album so that I know that they gave me their email. Yeah, Margie, that's so great. Just think through like what is going to help you keep your sanity and find joy in the process, right? So if that is having different collections of, okay, these people want more info, I have specifically invited these people, I've followed up with these people, you can create those collections, and as you have conversations, you can just move people to those collections that work best for you. So yeah, I hope that that is, okay, cool. That's helpful. Awesome. Okay, that is the end of our 25 minutes there. Let's see, we only have 15 minutes left. So here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna divide that in half and we're gonna spend 7 minutes inviting and 7 minutes following up. I'm gonna go ahead and start my timer so we can stay on track with our time. So going ahead and invite, if you have a process that works for you. You guys go into inviting. I feel like if you can get in your own way through any part of this process, right? You can feel weird intentionally connecting with people. You can feel uncomfortable inviting people, and you can feel like you're nagging people when you follow up. But this is where the mindset work comes into play, right? You have to have confidence and belief enough in yourself and in this opportunity to know that it is a gift, right? You have a gift that you are sharing with other people. And if you lead with that, regardless of how many people ghost you or say no or tell you you're crazy, like you can stand firm in the confidence that you have in this process and in what you are sharing with other people. So I know for me right now, all of my invites and follow-ups are focused around 9-week control freak, but I do have a separate, so I'm like super type A and I need all my ducks in their own rows. So I have a 9-week control freak invite and follow-up list with people who have specifically asked me about 9-week control freak. And then I have another follow-up list with conversations that I've been, inviting and having conversations around for several weeks, even prior to 9-week control freak. So the way that I follow up with both will be different, even if people from my non-9-week control freak follow-up list end up doing 9-week control freak. Like the conversation and the invite and the follow-up could kind of morph into that. Once again, find a system that works best for you. I work from paper lists when I'm inviting, but we've had some, like Julie said, that if they have any sign of being interested, they go into a follow-up collection. So that's probably where she's going to be pulling from during our 7 minutes of inviting and follow-up is that follow-up collection. Same is true with, we had a suggestion on putting them into a want details album, right? So then you can follow up with those invites and invite those people. So whatever system works best for you, you guys, that's the important thing, is that you find a system that works best for you. Do not overthink your invites. I always tell my coaches to invite to a challenge group or to coaching. That also kind of dictates where you spend your time. For example, last Thursday night, I had a coach sneak peek webinar. So I spent Tuesday and Wednesday, I had to build in an extra little invite pocket to specifically invite to coaching, okay? So your business, your vibe, depending on what you have going on. If you're not launching a 9-week control free group on January 4th or January 11th, then maybe it doesn't make sense to directly invite to that right now, although I'm a big believer in regardless, you need to be leveraging a launch. So just do what feels right for you. But I tell my coaches to invite to your group or to coaching as casually as you would invite somebody to lunch. Think about this. And our timer has started, so be working. If you went to a new restaurant in town and it was great, the food was great, the ambiance was great, the service was amazing, the price point was on point, all of the things, would you feel really weird and awkward inviting your sister or your cousin to go to lunch with you there? Probably not. You'd call them and you'd be like, hey girl, I tried out this new cafe. It's amazing. Let's go there next Tuesday for lunch. You should be inviting to your groups and to coaching no differently than that. Okay. So when you go into inviting, just know that you can invite, you should be inviting as casually as you would invite to lunch. And Julie, I see your comment about struggling to invite to coaching. Here's what I want you to do. Every single morning or as part of your morning routine or before you do a power hour, I want you to write down 1 to 3 ways that coaching has impacted your life. Okay. I know that we can kind of create like a false sense of impostership syndrome, if you will, around coaching, right? I'm not a 15-star. I don't make 6 figures yet. I've only helped one person. Whatever narrative you're telling yourself, it's very easy to allow that to get in our own way of feeling confident and inviting to coaching. So you have to flip the script, right? I'm not a 15-star diamond coach yet, but coaching has been the ultimate accountability for me. It has given me the confidence that I need to put myself out there to share my story with other people. It's brought the most incredible women into my life. Fill in the blank, right? What has coaching done for you in a positive way? Like, how has it benefited you? And I promise you, your conversations around coaching will look much different if you keep that at the forefront of your mind. Okay. You just have to flip the script and rewrite the narrative as to why anybody would be lucky and blessed and fortunate to join your team as a coach. Okay. And Kathleen, I am every other Tuesday. So you won't see me next Tuesday, but you'll see me the next. I'm glad that this is helpful. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm talking too much, but I feel like this needs to be a learning. There's scheduled for Power Hour. Aaron, yes, there is, but that is dictated by your upline coach, like how they share that. So, but I do have a schedule for this week and next week since it's a holiday week. I made a schedule for this week and next week. So just send me a message on Instagram and I can send that over to you for sure. Half a week, I think. Yeah. I have a schedule for this week and next if you want me to send it to you. Thank you, Shannon. That is the exact schedule that I made. So you guys can click in the chat box and save that. That one is for this week. And then I also have one for next week that I'm sure will be shared with you by your coach. Our 7-minute timer for inviting is up. So I'm going to set another 7-minute timer for following up. All right, you guys, that is the end of our 60 minutes together. I want to leave you with this, okay? And if I mean, I don't think anybody's going to kick us off. So now that we're through the work, if you guys have any last minute questions, be sure to post them. But I want to leave you with this. So a couple things. Be sure that you're building into your tracker and like your power hour time. Good. I'm glad that this was helpful. Like your housekeeping stuff, right? So checking into your challenge group and checking in with your challengers and checking your team page or your uplines team page or scheduling out your week or thinking about your social media content or what you want to share or all of the things, right? Like those are kind of behind the scenes work that are not necessarily income producing activities, but they're still important pieces of you moving your business forward, right? So be sure that that you have a game plan for kind of all of those things as well. And find joy in your business always and in these processes always, because that is going to be what makes you excited about sitting down to do this work, right? This second block of your business activity tracker that we just kind of walked through is the easiest part to put off because it takes the most intentional effort and work, right? So don't let that be the case, because it is also the thing that will move your business forward in the greatest capacity. So find joy in the processes and always fill in the gaps of your business. If you feel like there's a missing piece somewhere, you're really struggling somewhere, or you're feeling like you're being held back in some area, just find a way to fill that gap. That's the best way I know how to put it. So stay organized, do your housekeeping, find joy in the processes, and always fill in the gaps of your business. And I promise you, the more consistently that you navigate these pieces of your business and you find a system that works for you, that may look very different than the system we just walked through or the system that you'll walk through later today or tomorrow, just find what works best for you. And if it stops working for you, then give yourself permission to change it, right? Because it's your business and you get to decide what that looks like. But if you can find joy in the process and the system that you're using and implementing, you will not be able to put your phone away from doing a power hour or power pocket. So, all right, you guys, I'm going to hop off here. I don't see any more questions, but if there's anything that I can ever do to help, please be sure to let me know. And those of you that sent me a message, I will send you the recording as soon as I get it uploaded. All right, bye guys.